with that in mind, we did have people obviously looking at the advantages, looking at possible sources of help or correlation or what have you prior to the business plan. And in the time frame of about 1966, 67, we know that Sylvania was interested in a barcode for railroad identification, large barcodes, colored barcodes on the side of the freight cars. Sylvania had some experience. We decided that maybe they're the ones to see. We talked about them. Sylvania already had some contact with Kroger, which was located in Cincinnati, and with that, we decided to have some meetings with Sylvania, and Sylvania had started on a couple of candidates for barcodes, and but it eventually came to the point where they were too much immersed in other business opportunities, and we had an agreement with Sylvania that Kroger and might become a good partner in terms of developing a supermarket scanning system. And Kroger, of course, was the same people dealing with Sylvania, so we sort of decided to shift the responsibility of the work, of the project actually, to an individual at Kroger who was the key member at the time, of Jack Struby, who was vice president at Kroger Company. With that in mind, we quickly started looking at, well, what are we going to do for a barcode? We looked at a couple possibilities. We did an investigation of the field of barcoding done by others, other supermarkets, other companies. We did an investigation process, an investigation of patents, and a patent done by an individual, actually individuals by the name of Woodland and Silver, who I believe worked for Philco at the time.
I think at Drexel. They worked for Drexel. Drexel University, I think.
He might have worked for Drexel University. And the patent was granted to Woodland and Silver in 1952. The 1952 patent consisted of what everyone's, I'm sure, probably familiar with. It's a bullseye-shaped patent. The bullseye-shaped patent had some advantages that we were looking at from the ones that the other opportunities that we had, and one of the main advantages of the bullseye was that the symbol itself could be read in an omnidirectional fashion. In other words, it doesn't make any difference how you pass the barcode in front of that scanner. In any orientation, it would scan it. In addition to that, we felt that the state of electronics at that time was at a point where it was kind of important for that to be, because we had things like, they were called transistors, and we had gas lasers, and we had, you know, all kinds of the old-fashioned stuff. Lucky we didn't have vacuum tubes, but at that time, we could have made some other choices, but our choice was almost had half to do with just how how simply can we adopt the electronics available at that time to to a bullseye or to a scanner pattern that's available. It didn't take us long to convince us that, hey, let's go with the bullseye. So what happened at that time then is that we had more and more negotiations, not negotiations, but more and more about partnership with Kroger and people at Kroger, with the industry. In other words, the two of us sort of worked together and decided, and we in fact developed and even depended on each other's personnel to start working on a bullseye scanner. We developed a scanner, or we actually started to design a scanner that we felt was probably best suited at the end of a check stand where grocery products and what have you could be pulled across some scanning device at the end.
Who convinced you of that?
The people who convinced us of that were actually the human factors people that we had working at at RCA, another portion of RCA, and associated with us is all one big company, but we could borrow people and what have you, and human factors really decided it. But before we decided to make up our minds on that kind of configuration, to say pull a scanner, pull the grocery products across from where a customer deposited the product on their moving belt. We could, human factors people decided a checkout slot at the end of a scanner as the grocery clerk pulled it across might be a best solution, a good solution for handling. We used our secretarial staff to do some preliminary testing, and we used some employee from Kroger who was also brought to our laboratories and decided to run some tests. Tests all related to how fast can you pull these items across the scanner? How wide a slot do you need for the scanner so that you don't miss it? And so those were some concerns. Now, RCA patented I guess you could call it an over-the-end checkout scanner, over-the-end checkout belt and check stand. And when they developed that, then we had a pretty good idea of, hey, this is probably what the scanner ought to look like from underneath that slot. Some specifications were prepared, and now we had the input to create the specification for the scanner itself. We had to know how big it could be, what the environmental factors were, and all those good things. They were incorporated into the electronics, mechanical component of what the scanner looks like, and built it. First, that was about the date of the plan, the business plan, and we had a fair idea now of what this had to look like.